Imagine being punished for doing the one thing that helps you feel calm, safe, and in control. Sounds cruel, right? But that's exactly what happens to countless neurodivergent people every single day just for stimming. You've probably done it to tapped your foot, clicked a pen, bounced your leg. But what if those tiny habits were the difference between peace and panic, clarity and chaos? For many neurodivergent individuals, that's the reality. In this video, we're unpacking the truth about stimming, why it matters, how it's being misunderstood, and why society still shames something that's not only normal but necessary. So, welcome back to On the Verge YouTube channel. Um, in today's video, we're going deep into the world of stimming, what it is, why it matters, how it's being misunderstood, and why society desperately needs to change the way it sees this incredibly human behaviour. Whether you stim yourself, love someone who does, or simply want to understand neurodiversity better, this is the video for you, in my opinion, obviously. So, let's talk about what exactly is stimming. Now, stimming refers to a broad range of repetitive actions, sounds, or movements that serve a sensory or emotional purpose. These behaviours can look like rocking back and forth, hand flapping, pacing, repeating certain words or sounds, or even watching spinning objects or stroking certain textures. For neurodivergent individuals, stimming can be a life affirming tool for navigating a world that often feels chaotic, overwhelming, or understimulating. Now, stimming isn't exclusive to any one condition, it's common among people on the autism spectrum, those with ADHD, sensory processing disorder, OCD, anxiety, and even some trauma related conditions. But here's the thing, stimming is actually universal. Everyone does it. The key difference lies in frequency, intensity, and purpose. When someone with autism flaps their hands to manage overwhelming emotions, it's fundamentally no different from a neurotypical person biting their nails under stress. Both behaviours serve as coping mechanisms, ways to self-soothe, regulate, or focus. Now, why do some stims actually make people uncomfortable? Well, part of it lies in visibility. Subtle behaviours like tapping a pen or bouncing a knee blend into the background, but more overt stims like vocalizations or flapping draw attention, and attention, unfortunately, often leads to misunderstanding, judgment, and even discrimination. Historically, stimming, especially in autistic individuals, has been pathologized. Yeah, it's been pathologized. Early research, largely dominated by deficit deficit-based models of autism, viewing stimming as a problem behavior, something to be eliminated through interventions. It was seen as a barrier to normal social functioning rather than what it often is, a critical tool for emotional regulation and self expression. In many early therapeutic settings, children were taught to suppress their stims through behavioral conditioning. The logic was that reducing stimming would make someone appear more typical, but the cost of suppressing was high. Many individuals report that being forced to stop stimming increased their anxiety, reduced their focus, and made them feel ashamed of something that was inherently natural. Today, though, thankfully, the tide is turning. Neurodiversity advocates, autistic self advocates, and progressive therapists are reframing stimming not as a symptom to be erased, but as a legitimate and essential part of a person's sensory toolkit. We're finally beginning to understand that stimming is communication, it's regulation, it's survival. Now let's break it down a bit more. There are many different types of stimming, and they vary not only from person to person, but even from moment to moment, depending on what someone needs. Some of your common stimming behaviours. Um, Motor stimming is perhaps the most recognised form. It involves physical movement like rocking, flapping, spinning, tapping, or pacing. These actions can help ground a person, provide comfort, or help them process a big emotions. Rocking, for example, creates a rhythmic sensory experience that can calm an overactive nervous system. Tapping fingers might help someone focus during a long meeting or when trying to retain information. Then there's vocal stimming. This includes things like humming, repeating words or phrases, uh, clicking, or making other vocal sounds. For some, these vocalizations are soothing. For others, they're a way to block out overwhelming auditory input from the environment. Echolalia, the repetition of words or phrases heard from others or from media, is another form of vocal stimming that can help with processing language or expressing emotions. Now, beyond movement and sound, there are also less talked about forms of stimming, like visual stimming, where someone might stare at spinning objects or flick lights on and off. Tactile stimming involves touch, like rubbing certain textures, stroking hair, or applying pressure to parts of the body. That's why weighted blankets can be so calming for some people. Auditory stimming could be listening to the same song on loop. Stimming might mean repeatedly smelling a favourite scent. Even taste-based stimming exists, like chewing on non-food items or licking objects. It sounds weird. For people who stim orally, chewable jewellery or sensory safe chews can be a great alternative. Now, every stim serves a purpose. Well, let's talk about why people stim. One of the biggest reasons is sensory regulation. Our brains are constantly processing input, light, sound, touch, smell, movement. For many neurodivergent people, the volume on that input is turned up to 11. What feels mildly annoying to a neurotypical person can be completely overwhelming for someone with sensory processing differences. Stimming helps filter that chaos. It can provide a predictable, controllable sensory experience in the midst of unpredictability. If the world feels too loud, humming or covering the ears while rocking might help. If it feels too dull, spinning or hand flapping can bring needed stimulation to wake up the nervous system. Excuse me. Stimming is also a powerful emotional regulator. It can help manage stress, anxiety, anger, or excitement. Think of it like a pressure valve. It releases built up emotional energy in a safe and healthy way. Without accessing to Without access to stimming, emotions can spiral into shutdowns or meltdowns, but with it, individuals can stay more balanced and in control. And don't forget the joy. Stimming isn't always about managing discomfort. Sometimes it's about celebration. Many autistic individuals flap their hands or bounce when they're happy. It's a raw, beautiful, and deeply honest. It's not it's not performative. It's how joy lives in the body and demands to be expressed. Then there's focus. A lot of people stim to help concentrate. That's why fidget toys have become so popular, not just for neurodivergent people, but for anyone who needs help. Anchoring their attention. When your body is doing something rhythmic and predictable, your brain can zero in on a task more easily. That's why some students draw or doodle in class. They're not distracted, they're staying present. How about the way society often responds to stimming? Even with growing awareness of neurodiversity, many forms of stimming, especially those that are highly visible or audible, are still viewed through a lens of judgment. Hand flapping, rocking, vocal repetitions, or echolalia are often seen as weird, childish, or even unprofessional. These labels aren't just inaccurate, they're deeply harmful. They create environments where neurodivergent individuals feel pressured to suppress a natural and necessary part of themselves just to be accepted. This societal discomfort often leads to exclusion, social isolation, and even bullying, particularly for children in school settings or employees in traditional work environments. Rather than asking why a person is stimming, people tend to focus on how to stop it. That focus on correction rather than understanding pushes many neurodivergent people to begin masking. Masking is when someone hides or suppresses their natural behaviours, including stimming. They are suppressing that in an effort to appear more neurotypical. It might mean sitting perfectly still in a classroom despite sensory overwhelm, or biting the inside of one's cheek instead of using a calming fidget at work. While masking might seem like a coping mechanism to fit in, it often comes at a devastating psychological cost. Now, research and lived experience both show that chronic masking leads to elevated stress levels, mental exhaustion, and burnout. It creates internal conflict as individuals constantly monitor themselves to avoid stigma. Over time, it can also result in identity confusion. When when someone comes when someone becomes so used to performing a socially acceptable version of themselves that they lose touch with who they really are. This is especially true for people who were diagnosed late in life and spent years, even decades, masking without understanding why. Please believe me, I understand that clearly. In the worst cases, this pressure to conform can lead to serious mental health challenges, including anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation. And for what? To meet the arbitrary standards of normal that were never designed to include everyone in the first place? That's why awareness and education are not just helpful, they're critical. It's not enough to accept stimming in theory. We need to challenge the everyday attitudes of and biases that make people feel unsafe being themselves. Teachers need to recognize stimming as a tool for focus and regulation, not a distraction. Employers must understand that someone tapping a pen, pacing during a meeting, or using a sensory object isn't being unprofessional. They're self regulating so they can do their best work. Friends, family, and co workers all play a part in shaping an environment where stimming is respected, not ridiculed. Stimming isn't bad, it isn't rude. It's not something to be fixed or managed out of someone. It's part of how some people experience the world. In fact, when we allow stimming to be visible without shame, without judgment, we send a powerful message that authenticity matters more than conformity. That people are valued not in spite of their differences, but because of them. Ultimately, our collective response to stimming is a mirror. It reflects whether we're truly building an inclusive society or just saying we are. When we make room for stimming, we make room for people. and that is always worth doing. How to support stimming in different settings. So, in schools, for example, children who stim should be allowed to do so as long as it isn't harming themselves or others. Teachers can offer fidget tools, sensory breaks, or quiet corners for students to regulate. Explaining stimming to classmates could also reduce bullying and foster empathy. In the workplace, employers can create neurodivergent friendly spaces with flexible seating, sensory tools, or noise cancelling headphones. Allowing stimming doesn't reduce professionalism, it enhances productivity and well-being. At home, families can make stimming friendly zones with sensory objects, quiet areas, and open conversations. Validating a child's stims builds trust and self-esteem. It tells them you're okay as you are. Of course, not all stimming is harmless. Some behaviours like head banging, skin picking, or biting can cause physical harm. In those cases, it's not about punishment or suppression, but understanding the root cause. What's triggering the stim? Is it stress, pain, lack of sensory input? Once that's identified, caregivers and professionals can offer safer alternatives and therapeutic support. Again, for those that have been watching long enough, we always come to the final thoughts. Um, so, stimming isn't just a behaviour, it's a lifeline. It's comfort, regulation, joy, and expression all rolled into one. For neurodivergent individuals, it can mean the difference between distress and stability, between overwhelm and peace. And for the rest of us, it's a powerful reminder that there is no single right way to exist in this world. For way too long, we've misunderstood, policed, and pathologized behaviors we didn't take the time to understand. But the more we listen, the more we learn, and unlearn the more clearly. We begin to see stimming for what it truly is, a language of the body, a way to respond to a world that often asks too much or makes too little sense. A sign not of dysfunction, but of resilience, adaptation, and deep self-awareness. Excuse me. If we want to build inclusive spaces, whether in classrooms, workplaces, or everyday communities, we need to start by making space for stimming. That means normalizing it, not suppressing it, supporting it, not correcting it, and above all, protecting every person's right to be fully, unapologetically themselves. When we support stimming, we support mental health. We reduce anxiety. We encourage expression. We create environments where people don't have to choose between fitting in and being themselves. Because when we allow people to move through the world in ways that feel natural to them, we're not just accommodating differences, we're celebrating it. And here's the bigger picture. Let's take one meaningful step toward a world where neurodiversity isn't just accepted, it's embraced. When we embrace stimming, we do more than just support neurodivergent individuals. We challenge narrow ideas about what's normal. We make room for a broader, richer, more compassionate understanding of human behaviour. We open a door to authenticity, to acceptance, and to a society that doesn't just tolerate differences but values it. So, next time you see someone flapping their hands, pacing in the hallway, or humming softly to themselves, take a moment. Instead of wondering why are they doing that, ask what might they be feeling? What do they need? And how can I be someone who helps them feel safe just being who they are? So, let stimming be seen, let it be heard, let it be respected. Because the truth is, stimming isn't strange, it isn't wrong, it's human. Thanks for watching. If this video helped you see things a little different, give it a like, comment and a share. Yeah, share it with someone who might need to hear this. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into neurodiversity, mental health and the power of understanding. Let's keep learning together and keep making the world a more inclusive place, one conversation at a time. Until next time, take care.